I'm with Eva Sullivan and Rosie Reynolds, and today we're talking about their new book, The Kitchen Shelf. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So The Kitchen Shelf is all about having basic pantry items to make a meal and then adding in one or two fresh ingredients. Most people are going towards the trend of buy everything fresh, have all of these things. Why sort of subvert that and say, no, actually, like, keep things in your shelf?
Well, Eve and I both work in the food industry. I write and cook and style food for magazines and books and advertorials. And at the end of the day, we get home and this is how we actually eat. So, you know, all day I'm here, there and everywhere trying to find of the moment, hard to find ingredients. And you get home and you open the kitchen shelf and you're like, what have I got to eat for dinner? And you know, this book is how we mix up our spices, our kitchen shelf ingredients to make really good, simple, tasty, stylish recipes.
And so when you're thinking about, you know, starting that pantry, you know, we have in front of us kind of your, you know, ready to go sort of stock pantry. What are the items that people really need to have on hand that can change up any meal? If you have chicken 5 nights a week, you could take this and make 5 different recipes.
So I think in that situation, something like a tin of chickpeas is so amazing. They really take on like flavours from all over the world. You know, you can make sort of an Indian-inspired salad, and you know, just if you had some chicken in the fridge, you know, just fry it off and then mix that in with some chili flakes and some cumin and coriander. You can use it to bulk out a stew, like an Italian-style stew with some chopped tomatoes and some kale and sausages. And then we've even got a recipe where you can use chickpeas to make a brownie. So you know, they're so versatile. So I think they're a really great ingredient. And a box of eggs as well. Like we are big egg fans.
We love eggs.
Yeah. Just so versatile. You know, raising agent in a cake, and it's also a protein hit in a salad. And I think most of these things are something you can get, you know, on your way home. You know, it's not hard to find.
And the really good thing about the book and the ingredients that we use is that you can combine them to make so much more than what they are individually. So, you know, jar of peanut butter, I'm the worst for going to the jar of peanut butter and thinking, what can I do with it? 1, have it off a spoon. 2, have it off toast. And you know, there's so many things that you can do with a jar of peanut butter, and so many people have it. So, you know, you've got chicken, you buy some chicken, you chop it up, you make a really amazing Asian-inspired satay sauce with it, you serve it with some rice. You've got something that's so impressive, looks great, and is really, really easy to make. And, you know, you look so great when you've done it, and you're like, oh, no toast anymore. I have a whole meal in front of me.
You're like, I just pulled this one thing
just
out
put
of
this
the
together.
shelf. Yeah, and I think that for some people, you know, especially with the spices and, you know, you have mustard, you have peanut butter, you know, how do you combine that with fresh ingredients? Because obviously, you know, there's a point with the sort of kitchen shelf items where you say, okay, we need to balance that out with a little bit of freshness. So how do you sort of make that balance between items that are in your pantry versus the fresh items?
So I think it's really important to see kind of the basic ingredients of something that, you know, like, so for example, our shakshuka recipe. So in each chapter, the book is broken down into chapters by ingredients. So, and then the first recipe in each chapter is one recipe but 3 different twists on it. And the shakshuka recipe is in the tin of tomatoes chapter. So the idea with that is a basic tomato sauce, and I think, you know, it's a simple thing to make. You know, it's an onion kind of fried until soft with some garlic. But, you know, traditionally it's a Middle Eastern thing. But if you add some spinach and ricotta instead of some cumin and coriander, then you can have like a really delicious Italian-inspired baked egg dish. You can add some red peppers and avocado, and it's kind of a Mexican thing going on. So what we really want to champion with the book is just having confidence to not oversimplify your food, but probably streamline what you have, and open your fridge and look on your shelf and see the potential as opposed to seeing what you don't have, you know. Seeing things like soy sauce as a way of making something saltier, not seeing it as like, you know, sort of thinking, oh my God, I don't have this, so I can't then
Right, or this has to be Asian because I'm adding soy sauce into it.
Yeah, and it's about the combination of different spices. You can use a combination of them to do a really amazing coconut soup which has all the flavour notes of a really good laxer, but you're not having to go to the store and buy all of those specialist ingredients like fish sauce and galangal, and so you're using what you have on your shelf and you're combining them in such a way that you're getting all those brilliant flavour notes, and you know, it's put together in the right way. It's so much more than, you know, the individual parts of the recipe.
And for people who say, okay, you know, sometimes there's a time to use fresh tomatoes and there's a time to use tomato sauce. There's a time to use, you know, the spice, you know, rosemary out of the jar, and there's time to use fresh. How do you find that when you're cooking with these kitchen shelf items, that you say, okay, this is the time to do this and this is the time to sort of spring for the fresh items? You know, were there items that you left out of the pantry because they're better fresh? How do you balance that?
That's a really good question, and I think so. Something like a tin of chopped tomatoes, you know, when it's, you know, in the middle of winter, buying ripe tomatoes, they're always going to be flavourless, and then you're always going to have a great tasting sauce, and it's just knowing how to switch it up. And so, for example, we've got an Indian dal recipe that's made with red lentils and coconut milk, and then in the book it's served with roasted cauliflower with some cumin on it. But you know, if it's not that time of year, you know, if you've got some amazing aubergines from the farmer's market, there's no harm in using that instead, you know, or you know, even if you've got, you know, some butternut squash or something like that, it's you know,
about making the recipe your own, really. We think that the spices that we put in are really compact and they cover so many bases, and then, you know, like lots of the recipes in the book we have called upon fresh ingredients to make it really zingy and nice and summery. So we've got a great chickpea and orange and fennel salad, which is a kind of classic Italian flavour combination of the orange, fennel. You know, we've got some chili flakes in there, onion, and it's just, you know, you're getting freshness from the orange and the orange zest and the fennel, and, you know, doing, you know, like adding sort of twists, like keeping the fronds off the top of the fennel and throwing them through the salad at the end just to make it look nicer, fresher, you know, it's visually appealing. And then the rest of the flavours, you know, we're getting from our kitchen shelf. So, you know, we're making a really nice simple vinaigrette from the mustard and white wine vinegar and a drop of olive oil, seasoning it really well. You know, it's a combination of all these things and bringing in the two fresh ingredients that really bring the dish to life.
What are some of the ingredients? You know, you have certain things where everyone says, okay, you know, I definitely have olive oil or I definitely have sugar. What are some of the items that you've sort of listed as being essential that might surprise people?
I would say probably in terms of making savoury dishes, something like peanut butter will surprise people quite a lot, and how versatile it actually is. It can make a blondie, it can make a soup.
Well, thank you so much. The book is The Kitchen Shelf, and if you want to build your own kitchen shelf, you know where to start. Buy the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you.